Laughter disarms fear because fear feeds on tension. It grows when the body tightens, when the mind starts racing, when you believe you're trapped in a moment with no way out. Fear wants your full attention. It wants your breath short and your shoulders raised. The moment you laugh, even slightly, that tension breaks. Your body shifts before your thoughts do. Breathing slows. Muscles loosen. The situation loses its grip. What felt overwhelming a second ago suddenly feels smaller, more manageable. People often misunderstand laughter in hard moments. They think it means you don't care or that you're not taking things seriously. In reality, it's one of the most serious tools we have. It's not about cracking jokes or mocking the situation. It's about refusing to let fear dictate your response. When you laugh, you send a signal to yourself first. You tell your nervous system that you're not in danger, even if everything around you says otherwise. That internal signal matters more than any external threat. Fear also thrives on predictability. Bullies, pressure, intimidation, and chaos all rely on a certain script. They expect flinching, silence, anger, or collapse. Laughter disrupts that script instantly. It creates confusion. When someone expects you to shrink and instead sees a calm smile or hears a short laugh, their confidence wobbles. They start questioning their control over the situation. Fear loses momentum when the person it's aimed at refuses to play their role. There's a reason seasoned professionals in high-stress fields use humor in the worst moments. First responders, soldiers, surgeons, and emergency workers aren't laughing because things are funny. They're laughing because humor keeps them functional. It keeps fear from taking over their hands, their decisions, their focus. Laughter becomes a pressure valve. Without it, fear would pile up until it overwhelms judgment. Laughter also reclaims your identity in moments designed to strip it away. Fear tries to reduce you to a reaction. It wants you to be nothing more than someone being acted upon. When you laugh, you assert choice. You choose how you respond. You remind yourself that you're more than the moment, more than the threat, more than what someone else is trying to impose on you. That sense of agency weakens fear at its core. Even quiet laughter works. A small breath through the nose. A half smile. An internal chuckle at how absurd the situation is. Fear doesn't require volume to be challenged. It only needs resistance. That internal resistance changes how you carry yourself. Your posture straightens. Your eyes stay level. Your voice steadies. People pick up on those cues immediately, often without realizing why their approach suddenly feels less effective. Laughter also creates emotional distance. Fear pulls you too close to the problem. Everything feels personal, urgent, and final. Humor steps you back just enough to see perspective. You notice details. You think more clearly. You stop catastrophizing. That distance allows you to respond instead of react. It doesn't erase the difficulty, but it prevents fear from turning it into something larger than it is. There's strength in that kind of response. Not loud strength. Not aggressive strength. Quiet strength. The kind that says you've been here before, or at least you trust yourself enough to handle what comes next. Fear senses that confidence and starts to retreat. It doesn't disappear all at once, but it loosens its grip. Laughter is also contagious in a way fear isn't. Fear isolates. It makes people turn inward. Laughter invites connection, even if it's subtle. Others relax. Tension in the room shifts. The energy changes. Situations often de-escalate not because the problem is solved, but because fear no longer controls the environment. At its core, laughter reminds you that you're still human in moments designed to make you feel small. It brings you back to yourself. It grounds you. It keeps fear from becoming your defining emotion. When you can laugh under pressure, you prove that fear hasn't won control over your mind or your spirit. Confidence is quieter than noise because real confidence doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't rush to fill silence or prove anything to anyone watching. It sits steady, rooted in self-trust rather than approval. Noise, on the other hand, is usually trying to cover something up. It shouts, postures, exaggerates, and demands attention because it's unsure of its own footing. When confidence enters a loud situation, it doesn't compete. It doesn't have to. Most people mistake volume for strength. They assume the loudest voice in the room holds the most power. In reality, loudness often signals insecurity, fear of being ignored, or fear of losing control. True confidence has no such fear. It's comfortable waiting. It's comfortable being underestimated. It understands that reactions aren't always necessary and explanations are rarely required. Quiet confidence shows up in body language long before words are spoken. Relaxed shoulders. Controlled movements. Eyes that don't dart around looking for validation. A person who is confident doesn't scan the room to see who's watching. They already know who they are. That certainty removes the need to perform. While others raise their voices to dominate space, quiet confidence occupies it naturally. Noise tries to intimidate. It uses volume, aggression, and chaos to overwhelm. Confidence doesn't push back with equal force. It absorbs the pressure and stays composed. That composure unsettles people who rely on noise. They expect resistance, argument, or submission. What they don't expect is calm. Calm creates imbalance because it refuses to feed the conflict. There's also discipline behind quiet confidence. It's built through experience, repetition, and failure. People who have been tested don't feel the urge to prove themselves. They've already seen what they can handle. They know panic doesn't help and ego makes things worse. Silence, in those moments, becomes a tool. It allows them to observe, assess, and choose their response carefully. In tense situations, noise accelerates mistakes. It narrows focus and clouds judgment. Quiet confidence slows everything down. It creates space for thinking. It allows someone to listen instead of react. That ability to pause is often what separates control from chaos. While others rush to assert dominance, the confident person waits for the right moment, knowing timing matters more than volume. People are drawn to quiet confidence because it feels safe. It signals stability. When someone doesn't need to shout to be heard, others lean in. They pay attention. They sense there's substance behind the silence. That presence can shift the entire dynamic of a room without a single word being raised. Noise often collapses under pressure. The louder it gets, the more fragile it becomes. When challenged, it either escalates uncontrollably or retreats abruptly. Quiet confidence holds steady. It doesn't spike or crash. It adapts. That consistency builds trust, both internally and externally. There's also humility in quiet confidence. It doesn't assume it knows everything. It stays open. It listens. It adjusts. That openness makes it resilient. Noise resists change because it's invested in appearing strong. Confidence has nothing to prove, so it can evolve without losing its center. In confrontations, the person who stays calm often controls the outcome. They set the emotional temperature. When one side remains composed, the other side is forced to meet them there or look unstable. Confidence doesn't demand respect. It invites it through consistency and self-control. Quiet confidence also protects energy. Noise is exhausting. It burns fuel quickly. Constantly projecting strength takes effort. Confidence conserves energy by staying grounded. That endurance matters when situations drag on or escalate over time. The one who remains steady usually outlasts the one who makes the most noise. At its core, quiet confidence comes from self-acceptance. When you don't need external validation, silence becomes comfortable. You trust your preparation, your values, and your ability to adapt. That trust radiates without effort. Noise fades when it meets someone who doesn't need to engage with it. Bullies expect weakness, not humor. Their power depends on predictability. They walk into an interaction already imagining the outcome. Someone looks down. Someone gets quiet. Someone lashes out in anger and makes a mistake. Those reactions confirm what bullies believe about themselves and about others. Humor disrupts that expectation instantly. It doesn't fit the script they've rehearsed in their heads, and that disruption matters more than any insult thrown back. At the core of bullying is control. It's not about strength, confidence, or even dominance. It's about provoking a reaction that proves influence. Fear, embarrassment, or rage all serve the same purpose. When humor enters the moment, control slips. A laugh doesn't give the bully the emotional payoff they're seeking. Instead of tightening their grip, the situation loosens. Humor also reframes the interaction. Bullying tries to make the target feel small, isolated, and powerless. When someone responds with humor, the power dynamic shifts. The moment stops being something that's happening to them and becomes something they're participating in on their own terms. That shift is subtle but powerful. It places the target back in the driver's seat. There's courage in choosing humor under pressure. It takes self-awareness and emotional control to laugh when someone is trying to hurt you. That courage reads as strength to anyone watching. Bullies rely heavily on audience perception. They want approval, laughs, or silence from others. Humor often flips that audience reaction. The crowd relaxes. Tension breaks. The bully loses their stage. Humor also exposes insecurity. Many bullies project confidence, but it's often fragile. They depend on intimidation to maintain their image. When someone responds with humor, it suggests the threat isn't working. That realization can be deeply unsettling. Suddenly the bully is the one questioning their position. Not all humor is loud or sarcastic. Sometimes it's understated. A calm smile. A short, unexpected comment. Even an internal laugh can change posture and tone enough to throw off the interaction. Bullies are sensitive to those shifts. They sense when their tactics are failing, even if they don't consciously understand why. Humor buys time. It slows the moment down. Instead of reacting impulsively, it creates a pause. In that pause, options appear. The situation no longer feels like a trap. Fear recedes just enough to think clearly. That clarity is dangerous to bullies, because confusion and panic are their strongest tools. There's also resilience embedded in humor. It signals that someone has survived worse, or at least believes they will. That belief matters. Bullies gravitate toward people they think will crumble. When humor appears, it suggests depth, perspective, and emotional armor. Those traits make a target less appealing. Humor humanizes the person being targeted. Bullying often relies on dehumanization. Labels, insults, and stereotypes strip away individuality. Humor reasserts it. It reminds everyone in the room that this is a real person with agency, wit, and self-awareness. That reminder weakens the bully's narrative. Observers play a crucial role in bullying dynamics. Silence often empowers the aggressor. Humor can invite observers back into the moment in a different way. It gives them permission to disengage from fear and align with levity instead. The social balance shifts, sometimes without anyone explicitly choosing sides. It's important to understand that humor isn't denial. It doesn't mean pretending harm doesn't exist. It's a strategic response, not an escape. It allows someone to protect their dignity without escalating the situation. That restraint often frustrates bullies who thrive on emotional chaos. Over time, humor builds a reputation. Bullies notice patterns. When someone consistently refuses to react with fear or anger, they stop being an easy target. The bully moves on, looking for a reaction elsewhere. Humor becomes a quiet boundary, one that doesn't need to be announced. At its heart, humor undermines the bully's goal. They want power over your emotions. When you laugh, you keep that power for yourself. A smile can shift power because power in human interactions is often emotional before it is physical or verbal. The person who controls the emotional tone usually controls the direction of the moment. A smile, especially an unexpected one, interferes with that control. It changes the emotional signal being sent. Where tension is expected, there is calm. Where fear is anticipated, there is ease. That contrast immediately alters the balance. A smile is often misunderstood as weakness. People assume it means compliance or nervousness. But context matters. A steady, grounded smile communicates something very different. It suggests self-assurance, awareness, and choice. It says the person smiling is not overwhelmed. That message alone can disrupt someone who is trying to dominate a situation. Power thrives on reactions. Anger, fear, and defensiveness all give feedback to the other person that their behavior is effective. A smile interrupts that feedback loop. It offers no clear emotional reward. The absence of the expected reaction creates uncertainty. Uncertainty weakens authority that depends on intimidation. A smile also affects the person wearing it. Facial expression influences emotional state. When someone smiles, even briefly, the body responds. Breathing steadies. Muscles relax. The nervous system shifts out of high alert. That internal shift changes posture, tone, and presence. The person becomes harder to rattle, and that composure reads as strength. In moments of confrontation, people often scan for signs of vulnerability. Tight jaws, rigid shoulders, shallow breathing. A relaxed smile masks those signals. It doesn't mean fear isn't present, but it means fear isn't in control. That distinction matters. Many confrontations escalate simply because fear is visible. When fear is concealed, the interaction often de-escalates on its own. A smile can also redirect attention. Instead of focusing on the aggressor's behavior, it draws attention to the person responding. It reframes the moment. Observers begin to question who truly holds power. The one trying to provoke or the one remaining composed. That shift in perception can change group dynamics quickly. There's also intentionality behind a powerful smile. It's not automatic or forced. It's chosen. That choice signals agency. It shows that the person is aware of the situation and deliberately selecting their response. Agency is a core element of power. When someone demonstrates it under pressure, it alters how others engage with them. A smile can disarm without confrontation. It avoids escalation while still asserting presence. It doesn't challenge directly, but it doesn't submit either. It occupies a middle ground that is difficult to attack. Aggression often needs something solid to push against. A calm smile offers nothing to collide with. In many social situations, dominance is negotiated silently. Eye contact, posture, expression. A smile, paired with steady eye contact, communicates confidence without aggression. It says, "I see you, and I'm not threatened." That message can unsettle someone who expects fear or hostility. A smile can also create psychological distance. It suggests perspective. It implies that the moment, while intense, is not all-consuming. That sense of perspective weakens attempts to make someone feel trapped or cornered. The person smiling appears larger than the moment, not swallowed by it. Importantly, a smile doesn't erase boundaries. It can coexist with firmness. Someone can smile and still say no. Smile and still walk away. Smile and still stand their ground. That combination is powerful because it separates emotional control from decision-making. Over time, people remember how you made them feel more than what you said. A smile in a tense moment leaves a lasting impression. It lingers because it defies expectation. It suggests emotional maturity and self-control. Those qualities often command more respect than volume or force. Power shifts not when someone wins an argument, but when someone refuses to be emotionally moved against their will. A smile is one of the simplest ways to assert that refusal. Mental strength shows first long before physical strength or outward confidence ever has a chance to appear. It shows in restraint, in patience, and in the ability to regulate emotion when pressure is highest. The mind reacts faster than the body, and the way it responds in those first seconds sets the tone for everything that follows. When someone maintains composure under stress, it's a sign that their mental foundation is solid. Mental strength is often invisible to outsiders, but it's immediately felt. It shows in how someone breathes when things go wrong. It shows in their ability to listen instead of interrupt, to pause instead of panic. These small, almost unnoticeable behaviors signal control. They suggest that the person isn't being driven by impulse or fear, but by awareness and choice. Most challenges are decided internally before anything external happens. The inner dialogue determines whether a situation feels like a threat or a test. Mentally strong people don't deny difficulty, but they don't dramatize it either. They acknowledge what's happening and focus on what they can influence. That focus prevents emotional overload and keeps energy directed toward action rather than anxiety. Pressure reveals habits. When stress hits, people revert to their default mental patterns. Those who have trained their minds respond differently. They don't rush to judgment or assume the worst. They ask quieter questions. What's actually happening? What matters right now? What's the next useful step? That mental discipline keeps fear from hijacking the moment. Mental strength also shows in emotional containment. Strong minds experience fear, anger, and doubt like everyone else, but they don't let those emotions spill uncontrollably. They recognize the emotion without becoming it. That separation allows them to act deliberately instead of reactively. In tense situations, that difference is immediately noticeable. There's endurance in mental strength. It's the ability to stay present when discomfort stretches on. Physical strength can falter quickly without mental resilience to support it. The mind decides whether the body quits or continues. When someone keeps showing up despite fatigue, uncertainty, or opposition, it's evidence of inner toughness. Mental strength also governs perception. It filters noise. It distinguishes between what's urgent and what's merely loud. Without that filter, people become overwhelmed by stimuli and opinions. With it, they remain grounded. They don't chase every provocation or respond to every comment. That selectivity preserves clarity. In conflict, mental strength shows through self-control. The strongest response is often restraint. Choosing not to escalate. Choosing not to insult back. Choosing not to prove a point immediately. Those choices require confidence in oneself and trust in timing. Weakness reacts instantly. Strength waits. Mentally strong people are comfortable with discomfort. They don't need constant reassurance. Silence doesn't scare them. They don't rush to fill gaps or justify themselves. That comfort unsettles others who rely on chaos or urgency to gain leverage. Mental strength is built through repetition, not inspiration. It comes from facing difficulty, reflecting on it, and adjusting. Over time, this creates emotional muscle memory. When pressure arises again, the response is steadier. Less effort is required to remain composed. It also shows in accountability. Mentally strong individuals own their mistakes without collapsing under them. They separate behavior from identity. A mistake becomes feedback, not a verdict. That mindset prevents shame from eroding confidence. In leadership, mental strength is often the most valuable trait. Teams look for steadiness, especially when things go wrong. A leader who remains calm communicates safety. That calm spreads. It allows others to think clearly and act effectively. Mental strength doesn't seek recognition. It doesn't need applause. It's quiet, consistent, and reliable. It shows up in moments no one sees, in decisions made without witnesses. When it finally becomes visible, it's because the situation demanded it. Control your reaction, control the moment. Every situation arrives with built-in pressure, but pressure alone doesn't decide the outcome. The reaction does. Between what happens and how you respond, there is a brief window. That window is where control lives. Most people miss it. They react automatically, driven by habit, emotion, or fear. Those who learn to pause gain leverage over the moment. Reactions are powerful because they shape the direction of events instantly. A sharp response can escalate tension. A defensive response can invite further attack. A calm response can slow everything down. The external situation may be the same, but the internal state determines whether the moment spins out of control or settles. Emotional reactions are often mistaken for honesty. People say what they feel without considering the impact. But unfiltered emotion doesn't equal truth or strength. It often hands control to whoever triggered it. When someone can provoke a predictable reaction, they gain influence. The ability to regulate response removes that influence. Control begins with awareness. Noticing physical signals. Tightness in the chest. Heat in the face. Racing thoughts. These signals arrive before words or actions. Recognizing them creates space. That space allows choice. Without awareness, reaction feels inevitable. With awareness, it becomes optional. Breathing is often the first tool of control. Slowing the breath sends a message to the nervous system that the threat is manageable. That shift stabilizes thinking. Decisions become clearer. Words are chosen instead of blurted. This internal regulation often changes how others perceive the interaction. People who control their reactions tend to control group dynamics. In meetings, arguments, or confrontations, others take cues from the calmest person in the room. Emotional steadiness becomes an anchor. While others fluctuate, the steady presence sets the rhythm. That rhythm often determines the outcome. Reacting less doesn't mean caring less. It means choosing effectiveness over impulse. It's the difference between satisfying an immediate urge and achieving a longer-term result. Strong reactions feel powerful in the moment but often weaken position afterward. Controlled reactions preserve options. In high-pressure environments, reaction control is trained deliberately. Professionals practice scenarios repeatedly so their responses become measured under stress. This training reduces panic and improves judgment. Even without formal training, individuals can develop this skill through reflection and rehearsal. Silence is one of the most underused reactions. It creates discomfort for others but clarity for the person who holds it. Silence forces the moment to breathe. It shifts pressure outward. Those expecting a reaction often reveal more when none is given. Controlling reactions also protects dignity. Emotional outbursts can linger long after the moment passes. Regret often follows. Choosing restraint prevents self-sabotage. It keeps personal standards intact regardless of external behavior. Reaction control builds reputation over time. People learn what to expect. Predictable calm becomes a form of authority. Others hesitate to provoke someone who doesn't respond impulsively. That hesitation itself is power. This skill extends beyond conflict. In success, reaction control prevents arrogance. In failure, it prevents despair. Balanced responses maintain perspective. Life becomes less about being thrown around by circumstances and more about steering through them. Ultimately, moments don't control people. Reactions do. When reactions are governed by awareness, discipline, and intention, moments lose their ability to overwhelm.